Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today is Monday, which means it's time for an episode of Loadout, the series where you guys, the viewers, get to pick a gun and customization for me to use. The way you do this is you leave a comment down below letting me know what kind of weapon and accessories you'd like me to run with, and I will pick one of the top rated comments for the next episode. Today's top comment comes from Rosenrot, who says the Bioshock Infinite Booker Do It Loadout. The primary we'll be running is the MP18 factory, although there is technically no factory variant of this weapon, so I just ran with the trench variant, and this is going to represent the Tripple R machine gun from Bioshock Infinite. For the sidearm, we'll be running with the number 3 revolver as the Paddy Whacker hand cannon, since you can't equip the C96 as assault. Then for grenade type, we'll be using the incendiary to mimic the Devil's Kiss Vigor. Then for gadget 1, we'll have the AT mines as bucking Bronco Vigor traps. Gadget 2 will be the AT rocket gun as the Barnstormer RPG. Now there is also a pretty lengthy description here. I'll read some of it to you guys. Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt. You are Booker Do It, former soldier that took the role in the Battle of Wounded Knee, and now a detective for both public and private matters. In great debt from your crippling gambling addiction, you have been given a last chance of redemption to take back the girl, Elizabeth, from the hands of Father Cornstalk. Now, if you're a fan of the Bioshock franchise, you'll definitely appreciate some of the references here, and Bioshock Infinite actually takes place earlier than the original Bioshock game, set in 1912, so a lot of the weapon design should be pretty similar to what we're seeing in World War I. Granted, of course, it takes sort of that futuristic steampunk approach to things, so some of the weapons are, in fact, a bit more futuristic than we would see in World War I, but there's definitely some big similarities between the MP18 and the Tripple R machine gun. One of the most iconic design elements of this weapon is the perforated barrel shroud that basically gets replicated on a lot of other weapons, including ones from World War II as well. And despite this game using a lot of SMGs that may have not actually been seen much during the war, the MP18 is probably one of the most heavily used SMGs of World War I, and its design was so effective and so popular that it really led to be the prototype for all future SMGs. They pretty much started borrowing from the MP18 design. And it's certainly a great weapon in Battlefield 1. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite SMG from Battlefield 1. It's very capable, very adaptable to just about any situation, but there's a lot of other really good SMGs for the assault class. One of the main things that holds this weapon back is its rate of fire. 550 rounds per minute certainly isn't bad, and coupled with a good hipfire allows it to be pretty effective for the most part, but when you compare it to the other SMGs like the Hellrigel having a 650 round per minute rate of fire and the same damage model, and then the Automatico having a 900 round per minute rate of fire, it can't really compete with the other SMGs when it comes to damage. And having a high damage output for close quarter combat is very important in this game, especially when you're going to be running into people with shotguns and the other SMGs. The MP18 can start to feel lacking when you're going up against a lot of good players using the better SMGs. It does have very easy to manage recoil though, so it makes it an easy gun to use. However, it's not particularly effective at range, so having a reduced recoil helps a bit, but the damage model doesn't. So you're going to be tempted to use this at medium range, but it really just isn't that effective at medium range, and most of the time you'll only want to use it when your opponents aren't directly engaging you. If it's a straight up firefight at medium range, most people are probably going to have something that can out damage you. Good flanking routes and game sense is going to be far more valuable with this weapon, as you just really can't start taking fire with this gun when going up against another soldier. You're not going to win that firefight, so you got to be the first person to shoot, and preferably the only person to shoot. The trench variant of this weapon has the best hipfire accuracy, and that's really good for getting the first shot off in a firefight too, because you don't have to ADS. The hipfire accuracy is good enough that if anybody's 15 meters or closer, I wouldn't even bother aiming down sight. Now, I'm very happy that this loadout included the AT rocket gun. I think it's ultimately one of the best gadgets in the game. Not only can it be very effective at taking out other infantry, like snipers who aren't moving, or people held up in a building who've got a wall in front of them and you just need to blow up that wall, the AT rocket gun can handle that, but it's also one of the best anti-vehicle weapons in the game. A good tank driver will keep their distance and force you to try and take them out with AT rocket guns, and that's really the only long-range anti-vehicle weapon that infantry have. So it's a very, very important gadget to have in this game, and if you haven't really used it much, I encourage you to equip it and use it whenever possible. Taking out vehicles is so important, and the more people using the AT rocket gun, the faster you can take down the enemy team's tanks. Now I just unlocked another service star for the MP18. As far as I know, there's no weapon mastery, which is where you get 5 service stars or 500 kills with a gun from Battlefield 4. I haven't seen anything like that in Battlefield 1 yet, which is a little bit disappointing, but you get service stars nonetheless, and Battlefield 1 does keep track of how many service stars you get with each weapon, so you can at least sort of prestige or brag about them if you want. Now you'll notice I've mixed it up between War Pigeon, Operations, Conquest. The Assault class is very versatile. It can be used in basically any game mode. It's one of the best close quarter classes in the game, if not the best close quarter class. It does have a lot of anti-vehicle gadgets, so if you're not playing on a map that has vehicles, you might not get as much use out of your gadgets as you would with a different class, but that doesn't really slow it down much, as it can absolutely just tear through tons and tons of infantry. The problem, of course, with the MP18 is that it's only got a 32 round magazine, and doing 23 damage maximum doesn't give you a lot of leeway to chew through an entire squad at once like the Hellrigel does, and that's something that I kind of have to get used to. You have to engage, take out 1 or 2 enemies, and either back up or switch to your sidearm. Now the number 3 revolver with this loadout is a fun little revolver to have. It's definitely not one of the better revolvers in the game, but one of its benefits is that it's universal, so any class can use it, and if you just need a revolver that has a good fast reload time, then the number 3 is a good pick. It's just got a very slow rate of fire, so it's not going to give you a lot of leeway if you start missing shots. If you're not a good shot, then the number 3 is pretty much the last sidearm you want to have. It also doesn't have very good range damage, which is really disappointing, and you could pair up revolvers with shotguns in Battlefield 4 and it would make a bit more sense, as you could use your, say, 44 Magnum to try and headshot somebody that was further away if you're using a close quarter shotgun and you just couldn't deal enough damage at range. Unfortunately, this benefit doesn't apply to the number 3 revolver. DICE has balanced them a little bit differently in this game, so they don't have the same kind of range potential as before, and so it's really become sort of a slow firing close quarter weapon, which in my opinion is a very bad gun to have just in general. It's not to say you can't do well with it. I mean, I can do well with the number 3 revolver if I have to. It's just not going to be my first choice for most situations. Now I keep finding myself coming back to playing Kaiserschlatt on Operations. I think it's one of the most fun ways to play Battlefield 1 right now, with 64 player Operations on Kaiserschlatt at the start, especially with the trenches. It's amazing. And then if you can push on to the second map, you're playing on Amiens. 2 great maps to play in one of the most fun game modes. It's a great way to not only grind out kills, but just play a really fun game mode in general that's always going to be very action-packed. Ballroom Blitz is another great map, especially on Operations, and we've gotten out of the trenches here, and now we have to assault this palace, which is actually one of the hardest parts of Operations to take, because you have to capture 3 points as the assaulting team. It's almost impossible to do without the airship. You really have to be dominating the enemy team and dividing your forces very strategically. One of the hardest things I think about Operations is that, especially with 3 points, what'll happen is you'll capture like 2 of the 3 points and somebody will just move off of one of the points that you have to keep, and there won't be anybody defending it there, and so the defending team can just run back and take the flag. And getting a team of 64 players to divide up evenly or even play defensively, even if it's boring, is very hard, if not impossible to do. You really have to have like a dedicated squad of friends or somebody like that who's working hard to try and win the game no matter what, even if it might be doing some of the more boring tasks in the game, like babysitting a flag. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Operations is like maybe a year from now. I'm sure DICE will be making a lot of balance changes to the game mode, possibly adding or removing flag points, changing the locations of flag points, how many anti-air flat cannons might be in the game, and some of the UI elements that might make it easier for the team to understand what's going on. There's a lot of little things that could really help improve this game mode, but it's still definitely one of my favorites. As for this Bioshock themed loadout, it's absolutely effective, though one of the things that does detract from loadout is that I don't have the ability to switch up my kit when I need to based on the situation at hand. Assault is great, but it's not always the best choice depending on what you're running into. As always guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave your comments for next week's episode, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.